Sean Callahan here with Nebraska's secondary coach, Coach Coop. First of all, it's great to see you down here in Texas. This is a very busy time of year for you guys. How busy is the month of June, especially for someone like you that's heavily involved in the recruiting side of things?
Yeah, June's going to be crazy. We got a bunch of stuff going on. Official visits, camps and stuff. It's going to be crazy.
When you go to an event like this, I mean, you're going to be in Texas the next 2 days. What are you looking for? I mean, are you looking for 26 guys, new 25 offers? How do you go about a task when you might see 1,000 kids over the next 2 days?
I don't know if we get as specific as looking for a certain age group or whatever. It's just guys who can play at Nebraska or guys who we believe that can play at Nebraska.
A year ago, you guys found Braylon Prude down in Houston, and before the camp, you guys really didn't know much about him, right? I mean, you were able to discover him in a deal like this.
Yeah, we just saw him in the registration line, and he was this much taller than everybody else. And then I saw him run, and he ran a fast time and got his measurements, and then I worked him out, and we were on him from that day until signing day. So he just moved in yesterday. So from that point to this point, it's been good for him, I guess.
Yeah, your recruiting model is very unique at Nebraska. You guys will pull the trigger on somebody that maybe doesn't even have an offer. I mean, where did that philosophy come from? Is that how Coach Rule and you have always operated, really all the way back since the Temple and Baylor days?
Yeah, well, at a couple previous spots, we couldn't recruit the same caliber of players necessarily as, those type of guys. So you had to find things that they can do and teach them everything else. And we're a developmental program, so those guys with the higher ceiling, we like those guys. And they work out sometimes they don't, but when they do work out, you have good players that could do everything, Sometimes you have good players with low ceilings, so they just come in and they are what they will be. And then sometimes you have not so good players or not as good players with a high ceiling, and they grow, and sometimes they pass those guys. So we don't really worry about who's recruiting them. We feel pretty confident that we could develop players. So that's what the program's about.
Yeah, Bly Hill was an example of that a year ago. I mean, really under the radar transfer portal addition, but has a chance to be a starter for you next year. I mean, what when you saw a guy like that, how did you guys project, like, hey, he had limited film at the FCS ranks, but we think we can turn this guy into a Big Ten starter right away?
Yeah, well, Bly is easy. Like, occasionally you have a guy who's just a no-brainer. So, I mean, he's a 6'4" guy who could change direction and cover, and really smart, really good retention, and really serious about, being better. And his mom was a volleyball player at a high level, and his dad's an NFL player. All the ingredients are there, so that's kind of cheating. Just fortunate to have him.
And his injury situation, Coach Rule said, luckily it's not a long-term one, so you'll get him back. And I mean, how big of a break is that you'll get him back for the season?
Yeah, with a guy like Bly, he's only been in college for a full, probably today, a full year. So it's less about what's going to happen next year and more about when he's all finished playing in college, right? But it'll be good to have him back because he's a starter. He ended the spring as a starter. And I'm excited about his future beyond this year. But he's working to get back.
And you brought in, the largest defensive back class I think I've ever seen on paper anywhere. Yeah. I mean, how do you just kind of acclimate such a large group when you start to look at 8 or 9 guys you're bringing in here as newcomers?
Yeah, well, we have 5 on the field at one time, and typically teams play with 4 DBs. We play with 5, so going forward, it'll be a bigger class than a typical 4 down front, blah, blah. But, those guys, they'll fall right in line. We did it all last year and last spring. We have a pretty good group. Coach White helps out with that group, and we got some young coaches, Adam DeMichael and Chevin Smith. Like, those guys take the guys when they need. And we just collaborative working. Like, those guys just work. So it's going to be fun this year.
And you have to really like the veterans. I mean, you look at what you have coming back. I mean, you got 5 or 6 really established players back there. How much does that make your job easier now going into a year 2?
Yeah, I feel like we're in a better position now than we were this time last year. Not as many unknowns. We have some good players coming back. We've added some good players to the mix, and training camp will shake everything out. So we'll see. But I feel good about guys like Isaac Gifford, Tommy Hill. Like, those are returning all Big Ten caliber players. So it'll be exciting to see what they do in year 2 of the program.
And June in general for you, I've asked the coaches. I mean, you guys have all your players reporting. You got satellite camps on campus, recruiting visitors. How do you manage this busy month of June as a coach?
Yeah, like I said earlier, it's all hands on deck, and it's very little sleep. You know, trying to get the 25 class all settled in and trying to find, you know, guys that could play at Nebraska. Like I said, whether, you know, this time last year, we didn't have James Williams. You know, he came about in June, and like the later part of June, and he ended up helping us. So, like I said, I don't know if we hone in on a specific class, just guys that could play at Nebraska.
Where's July vacation this year at?
I got to figure that out. You know, I got to figure it out. We'll see.
Coach, appreciate it. Good seeing you down here in Texas.
For sure. I appreciate you having me.